on all of these programs. When you provided your email to register for the webinar, we will respond with some additional info to follow up. We also are going to encourage you to ask any questions that you have throughout this webinar. For those of you not familiar with Zoom, if you go to your screen, you'll see a little box that says Q&A. And if you click that, you'll be able to type in any questions that you have for us. We'll most likely wait till the end and I will read the questions. So if you have a specific question for one of the presenters, just note that in the question, but we'll try to get to everybody's question at the end. Beyond that, I'm available, as a regional resource director, for any questions you have after this webinar. If there was something that wasn't covered or you need more information, you can feel free to reach out to me as well, and I'll be sure to send you all my contact info. So if you could switch to the next slide. And we will get started. And first up, we have John Becker, who's going to be talking about our first responders programming and the resources available to first responders. So take it away, John.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. As Adam said, my name is John Becker. I am the director of the First Responder Program here at Caron. And today I want to talk a little bit about the services we're offering at Plymouth Meeting. But I figured I'd start with kind of giving you a little background on myself. I am a retired police officer in recovery. And after leaving that career, I went back to school after going through treatment and recovery. And got educated about substance use disorder and mental health and all that good stuff, and became a clinician. I've spent the last 8 years working with the first responder population around substance use disorders. So when we talk about having a first responder program, the question that I think is important to answer first is why? Why do you need a special program for first responders? And I think it's important to understand that as I talk about some of the services. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of depth about it. We could talk for hours, but just some highlights. So what we know about first responders is that they have unique cultural norms and traditions and behaviors, right, around them. Most organizations are paramilitary, and there's certain ways that they do things, certain cultural norms. Some are specific to whatever profession they're in, and then others go across professions. The important part of that is that those cultural norms impact their ability, one, to ask for treatment, and two, to actually receive treatment once they're with us. First responders are the helpers. They're the ones that run towards danger, run to help folks. So it's kind of counterintuitive for them to ask for help and to receive help. They're taught very early on in their careers, they learn to shut their emotions down and not talk about how they're feeling, not show how they're feeling. So they hide that, or try to hide that, I should say. A lot of the skills that they develop in the course of their professions and their jobs, they make them good at their jobs, they keep them safe at their jobs, do not translate to their personal life. In fact, they can often cause a lot of problems in their personal life. We know that first responders have higher rates of traumatic incidents, critical incidents, stress, anxiety, depression, and substance use disorder than the general population, than the general public. So they're more vulnerable to SUD. We also know that first responders are very slow to trust anyone. Often it's a safety thing, and they develop that negative skill in order to be safe at their jobs. The downside to that is they also have a distrust of mental health professionals in most cases. So that's usually the first barrier that we need to overcome. So the why, because of who they are, we need to approach them in a certain way, and our program's designed to do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the program. Our first responder program has a residential component as well as the outpatient services at Plymouth Meeting. The residential program is at Caron, Wernersville, and both the residential and the outpatient, I like to describe the program as an evidence-based, peer-driven treatment model. Okay, everything we do is evidence-based, but we come at it from a peer perspective, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. The team that we have together working with the first responders is a blended team, between peers with some level of clinical and peer support training on top of our clinical staff. So it's kind of a blended staff that works with our first responders. Our clinical team has more than 50 years experience treating first responders, myself included. We have a couple other folks that's all they've done, is worked with first responders, and together we have over 50 years. Our team together, we have a combined 70 years of recovery. So not only, are we the professionals to help them, but we've also been where they've been. And finally, the team we have over 80 years of first responder experience among our staff members. So we've done the jobs, we understand the culture, and we get where they're coming from that aspect. The idea of the program is to utilize the peer aspect of the treatment approach to engage the first responder, to break down the barriers to treatment. First responders, confidentiality is really important to them, and there's almost an inherent trust with another police officer, another firefighter. So what we try to do is build upon that and get them to buy into treatment through the peer aspect. So the residential program, inpatient, they get specialized services from the first responder team, but they're also benefiting from all the other great services that Caron has to offer, trauma services and psychological services and things like that. Specifically, I wanted to talk about our outpatient services today at Plymouth Meeting. We're currently offering both clinical and peer services out of the Plymouth Meeting office. And of course, currently they're virtual. Once we get past all this, they will go back to being in person. But right now, the clinical services, we're doing what we call a hybrid outpatient program. It's a mix between an IOP and a GOP. And what we found is that active duty first responders do not do well in outpatient, typical IOP. Their schedules don't allow for them to go to 3 treatment sessions a week. Their schedules change, all kinds of issues with that. So what we've done is we work with them around that to give them an opportunity to be successful in outpatient treatment. And what does that look like? We'll typically do with our outpatients, we'll have 1 group session a week, 1 individual session a week, and then we'll require that they attend at least 1 of our peer meetings a week. And those peer meetings are facilitated by one of our peer staff members, retired Philadelphia firefighter, police officers, things like that. So between those groups and their attendance in 12, the required attendance at 12-step programming, we feel we have a pretty robust program. The group and individual sessions target the specific, issues of that particular patient. A lot of it's work related, but a good amount of it is just the normal life stuff that any patient comes in with. The peer groups we find are very, very beneficial for first responders because they connect, they have people that they can relate to, that they trust, that are going through the same thing, they don't feel judged, and they start to share and open up, and they lean on each other, they support each other through the process. So that's what we're doing with our outpatient. We're going to be having a true IOP coming up. It's kind of a sneak peek. If you can roll the slides, I actually forgot to have the slides turned. This is some notes on our current programming with the hybrid. So Tuesdays or Wednesdays are the group meetings. And then the individual sessions we schedule as needed. But the peer meetings are on Monday nights and Friday nights. You can go to the next slide, please. So the peer support meetings are pretty incredible. It's a neat dynamic to watch. They learn from each other, they lean on each other, but it's guided by a peer-trained specialist. And the other nice thing about it is they develop bonds that carry outside of those meetings, to where they continue to support each other. Um, some of the other things that we're able to do, in part because of our background and because of the way we set up our programming, but we're very experienced in working with EAPs, unions, HR departments, dealing with first responders with back to work issues and things like that. And over the years, we've developed quite an extensive peer network. Prior to coming to Caron to do this program, I've worked the last 8 years treating first responders, and so have a lot of my staff members. So we've got a pretty robust peer support network to refer our patients to and get them ingrained in. Some of you may be asking, and I probably should have led with this, but what exactly is considered a first responder? And I think it's pretty much who you would think, police, fire, EMS, corrections officers, military, whether, active duty, civilian soldiers or veterans, pretty much anybody that would be considered frontline, dispatchers, things like that. Not everybody's appropriate for the program. So we do screen and that's usually done by myself or our clinical director to make sure they're appropriate. But this population is in great need of specialized services, and Caron is offering that, both residential and at our outpatient location. So I'm going to shut up now. I kind of threw a lot at you, but I'm going to turn it over to my colleague for the next topic we're going to share, and that's Jamie Nichols. Jamie?
Thanks so much, John. Really great information about the First Responders Program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other programs that we have, both currently offering virtually at Caron Philadelphia, and some programming that's coming once we're back in person in the office. So I'll just introduce myself. So my name is Jamie Nichols. I am a licensed professional counselor, and I'm also a person in long-term recovery. So like John, I think that it is important for our clients to feel that they're in a space where people understand where they are and where they've been. So one of the support groups that we're currently offering virtually through the Caron Plymouth meeting office is the Early Recovery Outpatient Support Group. So if you can go ahead and flip this slide, I think we have some information about when that group is meeting. So at this point, we are actually meeting, so the group actually is meeting Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We just have to make a correction on the slide there. The first hour of this group will be for processing time. So, this will be a time for peers to just talk about what they're struggling with and support each other in that, talk about what's going really well, to give each other ideas on how to, how to improve in their recovery. The second hour of the group is going to be for more psychoeducation, and we're really making an effort to make sure that this isn't a repeat of things that folks have learned in inpatient. For some of the people that would join this group, they may be coming fresh, and this may be their first experience in recovery. They have not come from outpatient. So we're working really hard to make sure that everybody is getting a well-rounded experience as far as the education portion. So a lot of that will be experiential activities, things that will help our clients to really apply what they're learning in their recovery. So part of this group is that, we really do recognize the unique needs of folks that are in this early stage of recovery. We don't have a set time frame as far as, what does early recovery mean? It could be the first 6 months, maybe even longer for some folks. What we're really looking at are developmental stages of recovery. So part of what we'll be working with are things like rebuilding relationships, re-entering into the community and into the workforce for those folks who are either have lost their jobs or are making transitions in the work that they do. So just kind of looking at what does all of that look like? What does this new existence look like now that, the drugs or, whatever addiction is that they're struggling with is not present? Part of what I think is really important in this part of recovery is finding purpose and meaning. So that's a lot of what we will also focus on, and that's so individualized. So, I think that the group will serve to really support each other in discovering what that looks like as individuals. So if we can just flip to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about what's going to be coming to our office once we are back in person. So we're really excited to announce that we're going to be offering an older adult specific outpatient group for patients that are 55 and older. As many of you may or may not know, we do have an older adult program that takes place up at the Wernersville inpatient location. And this will be similar to that in the fact that we are offering a therapist-led peer group for folks who are really in a different place in life. So a lot of the older adults that I have worked with have developed addiction after retirement, right? So a lot of people have their identity is wrapped up in the work that they do. And when that work is no longer present, what happens? How do they fill that? How do they find themselves? So things like retirement, life transitions, grief and loss, just working to, again, find purpose and meaning in this new stage in life. So the older adult group, again, is not something that we're offering virtually at this point, although depending on how long everything lasts with COVID-19, that may be something that we're able to do. But at this point, we are looking to do that once we are back in person. And I should mention just a little bit more about myself. So I do have over 7 years of experience working in the recovery world. I've worked with a lot of different clientele, both as a recovery coach and later on as a clinician. I've seen a lot of different people in a lot of different stages in recovery with many, many different needs. And I think, one of the things that I really love about being able to work at Caron is that the programs really can be individualized. And this is a place that just really genuinely cares about client success. And, we're here to help in any way that we can to support your folks. So please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, to anyone on the panel, to Adam. He's a great resource for all of the programs that we have to offer. And any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Allie Reese. Allie's going to talk a little bit about some of the recovery support services that we're offering out of the Plymouth Meeting office. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Jamie. So as Jamie said, my name is Allie Reese. I am a licensed social worker that works for Caron out of the Plymouth Meeting office. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about the recovery support services that we offer. And these are really meant to be supplemental services to clients and patients who are engaged in treatment elsewhere. So that could be in terms of an inpatient, coming out of an inpatient program, someone who is in an intensive outpatient program, or someone who's engaged in outpatient therapy. So if we could go to the first slide so I can just talk a little bit about what these services entail. So really these services are meant to help individuals transition successfully into their home environment or go through any sort of transition period. So we often see that in treatment, whether that is occurring in an inpatient environment or in an outpatient environment, the clients are building a really strong foundation of recovery. But some clients have more challenges in terms of applying what they're learning and the skills that they're building in treatment outside in their everyday life. And so these services are really meant to support those clients in the times when they're not in the office. So we look at supporting clients in following through with their aftercare recommendations, connecting them to appropriate resources within the community. So making sure that they're getting to their psychiatrist appointment, that they're getting to their therapy appointments, that they're attending their outpatient groups, and following through with getting to 12-step meetings or Dharma meetings or SMART meetings. So looking at the local recovery connections that they can build, and really just looking at their life from a holistic perspective and making sure that in all different areas of their life, they're integrating the principles that they're learning through their recovery program. And if we could flip to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about what those services entail. So we offer a number of individual services, which include a recovery support services screening. And that is something that is available to clients who have not received treatment prior through Caron. So this would be someone who maybe received treatment at a different inpatient center, or is just receiving treatment at an IOP program. And this would just be us meeting with them to determine which of these services would be most appropriate, and really designing an individualized plan based on their needs, based on their strengths, based on their challenges. We generally do something which we call critical reintegration, which is an in-home service. But obviously with the current climate, things have changed a bit, and we've had the opportunity to get really creative about how we work with people to ensure that their transition, their time in early recovery is supported, that transition is as smooth as possible. And so reintegration planning really looks like working very closely with the clinical team to design really an hourly schedule with the client to figure out how they're going to fit all of these pieces into their life. How are they going to fit in therapy and meetings and family time and work, right? All of the responsibilities that they have, and how do we support them in helping that to feel manageable? Intensive case management is structured in a way which we have an hour-long meeting with them once a week with the client. And that is currently being done virtually over a platform called WebEx. So we're able to do video case management sessions. And during these sessions, we're doing planning throughout the week, how to build a routine, looking at all areas of someone's life, including physical activity, nutrition, and recovery activities, clinical activities, family, social, and really making sure that each area of their life is getting addressed. And then throughout the week, we are assisting them with following through on the goals that they set in that initial case management appointment. And again, this can be something that is a supplement to treatment that they are receiving elsewhere. And this can be a really great service for one of your clients who might really struggle to follow through. So you're seeing them once a week, and then they're not able to follow through on some of the goals. This gives them a little extra support in between those sessions. Recovery coaching is another service that we offer, which is really a targeted approach on managing specific stressors. So this could be around an upcoming work event, a family event, employment difficulties. And this is really spending some intensive time, maybe 3-4 hours with someone working through. And again, once we're able to be back in person, that would be in person out with someone in their community. So it could sometimes even look like having us come with a client to work or to a function that they need to attend. And then the final individual offering is family recovery coaching. And family recovery coaching can really be helpful for the family member that needs their own support in how to handle early recovery in a healthy way, how to take care of themselves. This might be a great fit for the family member that's calling you as a therapist or a provider multiple times a week and really struggling with their own anxieties around their partner or family member's recovery. So this gives them a little bit of their own individual support. And then finally, we do have also a group offering currently through Recovery Support Services, which is the professionals group. So this group is is really meant to support individuals who are in professional or executive positions who are managing a very stressful, high intensity work environment as they are navigating the waters of early recovery. So looking at how do you balance those areas of life that we've talked about when maybe they're used to working 70-hour weeks where all of their energy has gone to one thing. And now we're telling them that they need to prioritize recovery. So we're working with them on how to do that. And through that group, they are also able to share and learn from each other's lived experiences. So that's been very successful so far and has transitioned in the last several weeks to being held virtually and has picked up pretty seamlessly. So again, these services are really meant to support your clients and patients in the work that you are doing, to help make sure that the clients feel as supported as they need during a very difficult time. And I think especially right now, when so many people are at home and maybe not engaged in the same way that they're used to, those people who need a little bit of extra support. So please, I'll be staying on after the session a bit. My email will be available. So, and please feel free to reach out to either me, or if you reach out to Adam, he can give you any more information about the recovery support services. And also, without further ado, we will next be talking a little bit about the Alumni Services. And so I would like to introduce Keith Rogers.
Thanks, Allie. I don't know if anybody can think I'm working. Thanks, Allie. My name is Keith Rogers. I'm the Alumni Philadelphia Family and Alumni Coordinator based out of Plymouth Meeting. Get a little bit about myself. I am a person in long-term recovery. Grew up, born and bred in the Philadelphia area. Now live, I grew up on the Western Main Line and now live on the other side of the river, closer to the office. We have a lot to offer you with the Alumni Services. We've always been more of the hands-on department at Caron, but we have been able to switch a little with this current situation. As a lot of you may know, we do quite a few alumni, family, and friends events throughout the year. And we're going to be put those on hold for the time being, but we are constantly able to reach out to your clients or patients when they come to Caron. We have a weekly fellowship group, which is in addition to your 12-step meetings that your patients may or may not, what meetings they're going to. This is just an additional tool to stay connected, especially when they're early and they're just getting out. We're doing it in a Zoom format. It is a weekly meeting on a Wednesday night. We have a selected number of long-term recovery alumni who are part of that meeting who can help do the process of early reintegration into the 12-step world for your clients or patients. 12-step contacts. 12-step contacts are a great, unique system that we have at Caron. We have a very grateful and huge alumni group that have been part of Caron for years. And what we use as a 12-step contact is that when we have a patient coming back from Smallville in Philadelphia, we then connect them with a person from Smallville to keep them so that when they reach out, they can have a phone call from a person in recovery right then and there for them. Normally, I'm able to go up on campus and meet these your patients and clients, but we're doing it now all via virtual, handing up battle handoff to the 12-step contact. And they are a person in long-term recovery who's willing to talk, pick up the phone, answer their questions, not be a sponsor, but be a friend. And we all know recovery is what is how we all stay connected. We also have, that probably a lot of you know, may not know, is we have an app. We call it the Caron Recovery app. It is an app that's on your smartphone, and it's a great way to stay connected for your clients as they come out. They're able to connect via text, group text back and forth, and just another connection tool. It also will send them to different articles and things for them to be able to review, and different ways for them to continue on their recovery once they leave. Parent support groups. I think I jumped. Weekly parent support groups, probably a lot of you know about them. They were started years ago, and they're all over the recovery world now. We have quite a few in the Philadelphia region. They are meeting by Zoom. The office meeting in Plymouth meeting meets Mondays and Thursday nights. The Exton meeting is meeting on Wednesday night. We also have a meeting that's meeting in Limerick and Westchester also. We don't have the actual contacts there, so if you want to know more information about that, please contact me and I will be able to get you to contact the group leader so you'll be able to access that. We also have a group that meets the first and third Wednesday down in the Wilmington area. And by the way, the Philadelphia office covers not only the Philadelphia metro area, we also cover South Jersey, most of South Jersey, and also all of Wilmington. So anybody that would be in that area that you might have a client or patient to, we'd be able to connect and help out. We're also on a lot of social media. If you've ever been on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, Caron is all over it. We have a Facebook page, it's Caron Connect, which we put out a daily message or a daily article or a daily connect. We just had an alumnus who was on NBC News talking about Zoom meetings. So there is always something available for them. We also have something that's not on this slide, but we have something called a parent-to-parent podcast, which is constantly being recorded. They're 30-minute downloads. They're available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Pocket Podcasts, excuse me. It's actually called now Parent, My Child, and Addict, the parent-to-parent podcast service. So it's a great resource if some of your families want to get some idea of what the parent support groups are. And more importantly, the parent support groups are open to anybody. If you have someone who's got a family member who's still out there and needs some positive reinforcement on what to do, where to go, they're a wonderful resource for them. So please reach out to us. The most important thing, as we all know in recovery, is staying connected. And Caron's alumni department wants your clients or patients to be able to get connected. We have a huge alumni base which are willing to help in any way. I'm always available, person in long-term recovery. I can pick up my phone anytime and help you out and access your clients to the right 12-step areas and 12-step meetings. We're here to help you. We're here to help on the mission, as we all want recovery for life. And the alumni department loves to say, we didn't drop out of life when we got into recovery, we dropped back in. So that's really what we're here to do, is to help you out. And I guess I will send you back up to Adam.
All righty. Trying to get my video back up here. Caitlin, can you turn me back on? One second. Well, I hope you all can hear me. I appreciate everybody answering all the questions and covering all the services that we're currently offering now. Sorry, I'm having a little issue with my video here. So I want to move on to the Q&A portion of our discussion here. If you could, if you have any questions, there we go. If you have any questions, just look towards the bottom of your screen, or some people have it on the top of their screen. There's this little box that says Q&A. I see we've got a couple of questions already, so I want to get started with that. Looks like, we have Bill here asking, he's got some experience in recovery and is willing to support the early recovery group. So I guess a question from there is there a way our partners and providers, people that we work with, can help support some of these groups as they're going? And I'll send that question over to Jamie.
So thanks, Adam, and thanks, Bill, for reaching out. I think that I read in the question that was, I'm not sure if that was specifically related to first responders or not, but certainly any of the groups that we're offering, you know, we would be happy to speak with folks about assisting with some of those groups, even if it's coming in as a speaker. I know that Keith and the alumni department are always looking for speakers to help out with some of the meetings that they have and some of the different events. So yeah, we're absolutely open to talking about that. Feel free to reach out to either Adam or myself. All of our contact information will be sent out after the presentation. So thank you so much for checking in about that. A couple quick things too that I didn't mention. I think there was a question that came through about this. We are offering level of care assessments and initial evaluations still at the Plymouth meeting office. In addition to that, so if you have anyone who needs to come in for an eval, whether it's for legal purposes or just to find out if they do need some support with substance use, that's certainly something that we can assist with. In addition to that, we do still also offer individual sessions, for folks that are doing our programming, as well as some family support too. So just a couple things I forgot to mention earlier that I think some questions had come through about. Thanks, guys.
Great, thank you. Looks like our next question, thank you, Peter. We've got a question from Peter asking, it said, thank you for the presentation. He's asking, how are you guys handling drug testing with patients who are required to be tested? So I'm not sure, who would want to answer that. Jamie, you got that?
Yeah, so right now we are able to be in the office if we need to for in-person drug testing. We are also working on some alternatives to testing in person, as well as alternatives to sending someone out to a lab, because as we all know, given the current situation, that's not the ideal thing to do, to send them to a lab for testing. So we are actually working on some alternatives. So I'll certainly have a little bit more information if that's something that you're interested in. I believe that we're going to have some definitive answers on that very soon. So I'm happy to respond to that question with some more details if you reach out to me directly. At this point, what we have been doing is being very safe in seeing people in person to do urine drug screens. But we're hoping to find a better way to do that. So hopefully in the next day or two, I'll have a good answer for you.
Wonderful, thank you. So again, any other questions, just feel free to jump into that Q&A. I have just a bit of a comment. If anybody on this call would like to connect individually with any of our panelists or presenters, you can reach out to me. I will follow up with an email once we have a video recording of this call, so you'll have my contact information. But looking at ways we can collaborate with you in your practice to support your patients, we can have individual meetings with anybody on this call with more details and discuss how we can best work together. We rely very, very heavily on our relationships for supporting patients post-treatment with us. So we really appreciate all of our trusted partners here who can help continue to support our patients as they work towards a life of recovery. And then any way that we can layer in these support services into the work that you're doing to just help, we're available. So again, it's going to be unique for any situation, but if you have any further questions or want a personal meeting with anybody on this panel, just feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Hey, Adam, it's John. I wanted to jump in real quick. And something I forgot to mention. I wanted the folks on the call to know that the first responder peer services that we're offering at Plymouth Meeting are at no cost, and they are open to any first responder regardless of where they went for treatment or if they're interested in treatment or they don't know. Please connect them up. We'll welcome them into the group. They don't necessarily have to be a Caron patient. And the other thing I wanted to touch on was the daytime IOP that we're going to be starting. We haven't rolled that out yet, but it's coming soon. And the reason for the daytime IOP is we plan on capturing the first responders that are not going back to work or might be retired, or veterans that are now doing another career or whatever, to get them, to keep them occupied during the day until they're ready to go back to work or move back to their regular life. So that's going to be coming, and I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit.
Great, thank you, John. So are there any other questions? So I think we have one additional slide with some additional resources. You could switch over to that. So if you would like to join us next Tuesday, we have a webinar focusing on the vulnerability of teens and young adults during the COVID-19 pandemic. Should be a great informative webinar for any of you that are doing work with teens and young adults, and addressing some of the unique situations that they're faced with due to this pandemic. This is a series that we're doing every Tuesday. We also have a library of our recordings of these former webinars on our YouTube page. Just search Caron on YouTube and you should be able to find those. But this one should be really good for anybody that's working with teens and young adults. And if there aren't any additional questions, which I don't see in the Q&A, I think that wraps it up. So we will follow up with a recording of the webinar for your reference, as well as some additional materials for you with information on all of the programs that were discussed. Thank you again. I appreciate you all joining us for this webinar, and be safe, stay well, and take care. Bye.